Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's pretty straightforward. We're cutting through the complexity to instantly understand a really significant piece of work from the Global Answer Project.
Hmm.
This isn't just, another policy report. It's more like a game plan for fundamentally rethinking how countries like Spain, Italy, and Sweden approach migrant integration, moving beyond those old reactive systems.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. The
hmm
starting point for the Global Answer team was really facing a harsh reality.
Yeah,
The current integration systems across Europe, they're just not working well enough.
falling short.
Yeah, falling short when you look at today's complex human mobility. So the project doesn't just suggest like minor tweaks. It puts forward a social innovation model.
Okay.
And this is designed for systemic transformation,
Right.
really changing the whole institutional relationship with migrants.
So if the current system is seen as rigid, structurally rigid, how do they actually propose breaking that? I mean, the report kicks off with quite a powerful, almost revolutionary shift in perspective, doesn't it?
It does. It's all about status, really. It argues we have to shed that classic view, the historical vision of the migrant as just a passive recipient of aid.
A user.
Exactly, the mere user waiting for help, and instead move towards recognizing them as an active, capable, and frankly essential partner in a collaborative setup. Success, they argue, it really hinges on making migrants co-creators.
Co-creators of their own integration paths? Wow.
Yeah.
If that shift were truly applied, I mean, that's where the power structure really flips, isn't it? And the specific mechanism for this partnership, it's a concept we hear a lot, but this report seems to define it quite rigorously.
Precisely. The central term here is co-production. And let me be clear, this goes way beyond just simple consultation or, a token focus group.
Right.
It means migrants are actively involved in the design, the day-to-day running, and even the final evaluation of the services that affect their lives.
Okay, so here's the key nugget of knowledge for you, the listener.
Yeah.
The idea underneath all this is that the migrant's lived experience isn't just like background color.
Not at all.
It's a form of expert knowledge. And it's treated as equally valuable as the technical knowledge that the professional service providers bring.
And that recognition, well, it changes everything. It doesn't just make the services more relevant, more adjusted to reality.
What you'd expect.
Right. But the report explicitly says this approach helps rebuild the social fabric. By kind of forcing host and migrant communities to work together on solutions, they actually build trust.
Building relationships.
Exactly. Breaking down systemic barriers and genuinely fostering cohesion.
Understood. Okay, if co-production is potentially so revolutionary, we need to know how rigorously they actually tested it. How did Global Answer set up this living laboratory across places like Spain, Italy, Sweden?
Well, it was designed to practice what it preached, essentially. It was a huge collaborative effort. You had universities involved, Granada, Camillas, Palermo, Florence, Lund.
Big names.
Yeah, working side by side with NGOs like Rethink. And crucially, local municipalities, local government bodies. They weren't just observing innovation. They were trying to be innovative by linking academia, civil society, and local government.
And the methodology on the ground, how did they capture all that complexity? You said they were looking for the why behind success, not just the what.
Yeah, they use a mainly qualitative approach, comparative case studies. They actively went out to get the voices of everyone involved, policymakers, professionals on the ground, and the migrants themselves, to understand the mechanics of what actually works.
Okay.
And to make sure the picture was complete and reliable, they use a technique they call triangulation.
Triangulation. Okay. Sounds a bit technical.
It is, a bit, but the idea is actually quite simple. Think about how GPS works, right? It needs signals from multiple satellites to pinpoint your exact spot.
Right. Multiple perspectives.
Exactly. The researchers didn't just rely on one type of data. They combined things like biographical interviews, deep conversations, focus groups, surveys, even direct participant observation, being there and seeing it happen, looking at the same thing from different angles to make sure the data was solid.
That makes sense. Robust.
Yeah, not skewed by just one viewpoint.
And that level of rigor is pretty essential, I guess, because their aim was to identify good practices, but good can be so subjective, can't it?
Totally.
So the report tackles that head-on by defining good practice using 4 interconnected and actually quite demanding criteria.
Exactly. This is their kind of non-negotiable framework. The first one is coherence.
Okay.
A practice has to be internally logical, the actions match the goals, but also externally consistent. Consistent with the local context, with human rights, and with an intersectional approach.
Intersectionality, meaning?
Meaning recognizing that, say, A migrant woman from a specific class or ethnic background faces fundamentally different challenges than maybe a migrant man from elsewhere.
Mm.
You can't just lump everyone together.
Right. We're not all the same when facing the system. But hang on, if a policy is coherent, it logically does what it says it will do,
Right.
but it's not conscious, could it still end up maybe unintentionally reinforcing old biases?
Yes, absolutely. That's the real danger there. And that leads straight into the second criterion, consciousness.
Okay.
This means the practice has to be built on a solid, ethical, anti-racist, and properly informed theoretical foundation. It can't just be improvised on the fly.
Right.
It must actively recognize and challenge diversity and, crucially, structural inequalities.
Okay, and the third criterion. This one sounds like the ultimate anti-bureaucracy check, reflexivity.
It really is. It's basically the antidote to that old lazy excuse, well, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Reflexivity is about having the capacity for ongoing critical self-evaluation.
Hmm.
Literally, like holding up a mirror to your own processes and asking tough questions. Are we reproducing power imbalances here? Are our actions truly ethical? It demands transparency and, crucially, flexibility.
And finally, something very practical that I imagine everyone involved worries about. Sustainability.
Yes. The practice has to create lasting, meaningful change, not just a flash in the pan. That means having proper evaluation systems, strengthening migrants' own capacity so they eventually achieve independence.
Empowering them.
Exactly. And, critically, having stable funding. The report really flags unstable short-term project funding as one of the biggest, most chronic problems undermining good intentions in this field.
Yeah, that project-based cycle,
Mm-hmm.
it's a killer for long-term impact.
Mm-hmm.
And just to underline it, the report stresses that migrant participation and a gender perspective are non-negotiable. They're sine qua non conditions, right?
Yeah,
For anything to be called a good practice.
absolutely mandatory.
Foundational. Okay, so once a good practice is identified, say something works brilliantly in the, I don't know, the highly structured Swedish welfare system. You can't just copy and paste it into Grenada, Spain, can you?
No way.
That seems to be the core tension they identify between fidelity, copying it exactly, and adaptation, changing it so much you maybe lose the magic ingredient.
It's the classic transfer dilemma. It's
Yeah.
like adapting a really successful complex recipe.
Right.
If you change too many of the key ingredients, what the report calls the central components, you just lose the flavor, the thing that made it work in the first place.
How do you solve that?
The solution they propose is doing a thorough diagnosis before you transfer. You have to clearly identify those central components, the non-negotiable core, and then figure out the flexible elements, maybe the spices, the garnishes in our recipe analogy that must be adapted to the new setting, the different institutional culture.
So distinguishing the structural essence from the maybe cultural window dressing.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. And that structured process leads us to the actual architecture they propose for making this happen, the triadic configuration for social innovation. You can picture like a triangle with 3 key points or vertices.
Okay, at triangle, what are the points?
So the first vertex is the committed core. This is the engine, the driving force from the ground up. It's the NGOs, organized civil society groups, and critically, migrants themselves and their associations. They bring the energy and that vital experiential knowledge.
The grassroots engine. Got it. Second vertex.
Public bodies. So the local administrations, municipalities, but their role gets redefined here.
How so?
Well, their role shifts quite dramatically, away from directing and controlling everything.
The old top-down way.
Exactly. Towards facilitating. They provide the legal framework, the resources, the institutional legitimacy. The report uses this interesting metaphor. They suggest public bodies should aim to be in the shadow.
In the shadow. Okay, hang on. If the public bodies are supposed to be in the shadow, isn't there a risk that institutions might see that as an excuse to, well, step back, abdicate responsibility, especially when it comes to that crucial stable funding you mentioned? It seems easier for them just to back off completely.
That's a really critical point, and the report acknowledges that tension. Being in the shadow doesn't mean abandonment at all. It means shifting power. It means trusting the innovation coming from that committed core, providing the solid legal and financial backup, and maybe stepping in strategically only to clear bureaucratic hurdles, not to dictate the actual agenda. It demands a pretty profound cultural shift within those institutions away from hierarchy.
Okay, that clarifies the responsibility aspect. It's support, not absence. And the third vertex of the triangle.
These are the flexible bridging organizations. Think foundations, universities, research centers. They act almost like wildcards.
Wild cards.
Yeah, they bring in specific resources as and when needed, maybe technical research expertise for evaluation or specialized training or access to wider networks. They help ensure the collaboration between the core and the public bodies is fluid and, importantly, evidence-based.
So we have the grassroots engine, the public facilitator, and this flexible connector. And the whole structure, you said, is guided by four pillars: creativity, shared knowledge, collaboration, implementation, but the absolute foundation it all stands on is reciprocity.
Reciprocity is the cement holding it all together, yes. It means participation can't just be symbolic or worse, extractive.
Extractive, like just mining people for information.
Exactly. If migrants are investing their time, their energy, their expert knowledge to help design a service, they absolutely must receive a tangible benefit in return.
Okay, give us an example of a tangible benefit. What does that look like in practice? Is it just money?
It could be several things, maybe formal training credentials they can use elsewhere. It could be real budget authority over the service they helped design.
Hmm.
Access to professional networks, maybe high-level recognition that genuinely translates into employment opportunities or real influence. It has to be something meaningful that sustains their trust and proves their knowledge truly is valued.
Okay, that makes sense. Not just a thank you certificate.
Aye. Definitely not. And the implementation guide the report offers, which they stress isn't linear, it all aims towards systemic change. And that inevitably demands a radical evolution in the professional landscape, particularly for social workers.
Yeah, the role of the social worker must shift quite significantly based on this.
Hugely. They have to move away from primarily being, say, a benefits manager or just a compliance officer operating within rigid systems,
Gatekeepers almost.
towards becoming a facilitator of change, a co-researcher alongside migrants, and an agent of social transformation. It means they need a whole new set of competencies, really, that go way beyond traditional casework.
It sounds like it demands adopting a much more structural perspective, too, looking beyond the individual case to tackle those systemic barriers you mentioned, like institutional racism or exclusionary policies. It suggests social workers almost need to become proactive political advocates, not just passive administrators.
That's exactly it. It requires constant reflexivity, that self-awareness we talked about, and mastering skills like collaborative research methods and critical intercultural mediation. It's a much more complex, definitely more active, and I'd say ethically grounded professional profile than maybe the traditional one.
But the report is realistic, right? It's sober about the journey. What are the biggest roadblocks they see standing in the way of achieving this, well, almost utopian triadic model?
Oh, the challenges are fierce, and they list them clearly.
Sure.
You've got the typical resistance to change within hierarchical institutions, deep-seated power imbalances, and that persistent chronic problem of unstable short-term funding.
The usual suspects.
Yes. But crucially, they also highlight adverse political contexts. Contexts often dominated by the securitization of migration, the whole discourse of fear and borders.
Yeah, framing migration as a threat.
Exactly. And that intentionally creates a climate that's just deeply unfavorable to genuine inclusion and participation. It actively works against building trust.
So systems driven by fear inherently block systems that try to build co-production and trust. Makes sense. But and it's a big if these difficulties can be overcome, what's the ultimate payoff for societies? Why go through all this effort?
Oh, the payoff they see is huge, really, twofold. First, greater effectiveness. Solutions designed with the people who will use them are just naturally going to be a better fit, more fit for purpose.
Makes sense.
And second, strengthening social cohesion, actually building genuine bridges and relationships based on equality between host and migrant populations. It's ultimately about building societies that are fairer, more resilient, and just work better for everyone.
So the big takeaway seems to be, to truly improve inclusion, small tweaks just aren't going to cut it.
Not enough.
We need this deeply collaborative social innovation, one that sees migrants as absolutely essential partners, not just users, and that really seeks to transform entire systems from within using those four quite demanding criteria we discussed.
It's a complete roadmap, really. Despite acknowledging the resistance, it encourages innovation that bubbles up from the grassroots, is supported discreetly but robustly by the administration, and is sharpened by external expertise when needed.
Okay, final thought then. If this model of co-production truly elevates the migrants' lived experience to the status of expert knowledge, placing it right alongside on the same level as the professional's technical knowledge, To what extent could that genuinely challenge, maybe even revolutionize, our traditional ideas about who the real expert actually is? And what does that mean for the deep-seated hierarchies of power within professional social services? Something for you to mull over as you integrate this deep dive.